there was a point in the third week, I think it was a Friday, where I was really having this battle in my head, like, fuck, you're not good enough. Yeah, nah, you need a girlfriend. Nah, yeah, you need to be doing X, Y, and Z. And I just let it all go. I let it all go, and I decided I was going to enjoy the rest of the trip. And from here on out, I was going to be so fine being by myself. And this is something that I struggled with for such a long time, especially after being in jail. And I always needed to have company. I always needed to have people around me. And I mean, at home, even though I might not have a girl with me or friends with me, I've got housemates. I've got my son here. What is up, legends? Welcome to this week's episode of the Interchange podcast. Today it is a solo episode, and I'm going to be using this week's episode to give you guys a little recap of the last 3 weeks for me, which was when I was on the road trip from starting in Melbourne all the way up the East Coast, skydiving the whole way. And yes, it was fucking amazing. So many lessons, met so many amazing people, saw so many beautiful places, and honestly, it was just such a wholesome experience overall. But before we go any further, as per always, as you do know, the more people and eyes and ears we can get looking and watching and listening to this podcast, the bigger and better guests I'm going to be able to bring for you guys. So if you can do me a small favor and just go and hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to share this with just one of your friends that you feel might be able to benefit from it. Like I said, the more people we can get watching this podcast, the more subscribers we get, the bigger and better guests I can bring for you guys, and in turn, the more value I'm going to be able to deliver. But today's episode is all about the last 3 weeks for me. Now, for anyone that's been following my journey, you know that 11 weeks, 12 weeks ago, I gave my personal training clients notice to say that I am done with personal training. And for me, it wasn't about anything other than the fact that I know that if I have one foot in the door, one foot out, I'll never go 100% on anything. They say that obviously if you chase two rabbits, you'll catch none. That's how the saying goes. And I've seen it happen time and time again in my life. There was a point in my life where I was still selling drugs and training clients. So I knew that if I didn't do too great with PT, I still had the, let's say $1,000, $2,000 that I could make on the weekend from selling drugs to fall back on. So it meant that I wasn't going hard on my business. And as soon as I let that go and went 100% all in on my business, it flourished. And it's the same with transitioning from into fit to interchange. So interchange is all about helping people to realize that change is always possible no matter where they're at in their life, whether it be through, using elements of fitness, but the focus now is no longer around fitness in particular. And I knew that once again, if I still had PT clients and was trying to do the personal development, life coaching side of things, there's probably a big part of me that would always rely on the PT as a backup plan. So idea behind doing the personal development stuff, apart from having a bigger impact in the world and being able to impact lives in a better fashion, it was definitely also for lifestyle, to be able to work from anywhere in the world. So this road trip wasn't just about celebrating that milestone in my journey and my career, but it was also about pressure testing to see how serious I could be about working from anywhere in the world. And trust me, there were some spots around Australia that didn't have much reception. And for someone that needs to work online, that was definitely a challenge. But we made it work. We made it work. We found a way, sorry. If there's a will, there's a way. But anyways, I'll run through from the beginning exactly how things went down. So flew down to Melbourne on Sunday, the 5th of November, I believe it was, 6th of November, 5th or 6th. I think it was the 6th. And anyways, I was meant to stay with a friend of mine, Freddie, who was actually running a triathlon up on the Sunshine Coast. His first try. So yeah, he wasn't there. I got to meet his lovely partner, and me and her had some good chats, which was cool. And then got up the next morning, ready to go. Hit the gym. Went for a run to the gym, ran back to from the gym as well. So I was just trying to stay on top of that fitness and really, from the first day of holidays, get that routine and those foundations of the things that are important to me, being fitness, journaling, breath work, meditation, and also gratitude every day. So I tried to keep those 5 to the best of my ability the entire way through the trip. We'll talk more about that in a second. So I got up, went to the gym, came back, had some breakfast. No, I didn't have some breakfast actually because I was fasting. So didn't eat and killed some time till about 7. I actually had the onboarding as well during this for my virtual assistant, which helped me out immensely while I was away. So they've been handling all my posting and a lot of my social media stuff, which has really been a game changer for me, which is great. So I had the onboarding. And then, before I knew it, it was like 8 o'clock and I was meant to go pick this van up at 9 a.m. So I'm jumping in the Uber, I'm downstairs, I've got 40 kilos of luggage, 40 kilos. So I've got one massive bag that's got my parachute, my clothes, all the other bits and pieces in it. I've got a backpack, I've got a Coles bag with my laptop and a couple other things in it. And I'm on my way to go and pick this go and pick this van up. And all of a sudden I get a call. Hello, Ben Lowe speaking. Yeah, hi, it's so-and-so from Campervan Village. And I'm like, oh, here we go. It's already started. So they tell me that the van that I've previously booked for the last 4 weeks, 5, 6, even longer, maybe 2 months, I had this van booked for. Mind you, I booked this van when I told my clients I was finishing up with them. So it was at least 8 weeks prior because I gave them 8 weeks notice. And I've got them on the other end telling me that there's no van there for me to pick up. Okay, well, I'm sorry, but I'm actually in an Uber right now on my way to the depot to pick this van up. So I don't know what you want me to do. And their suggestion was that, hey, look, we can have a van here for you tomorrow. But yeah, you'll just have to, we can refund you another day as well if that's fine. And so I'm like, no, that's not really fine. I've kind of got a trip I'm meant to be on and it starts today and I'm going to miss out on X, Y, and Z if I do that. So that's really not good enough. What can you guys do for me? So I get a call back. I'm still in the Uber on the way there. Mind you, I'm in Melbourne. I haven't got accommodation. I didn't want to intrude on Fred and his partner because there was a bit of a personal thing going on with Fred. And I didn't want to pay for accommodation, obviously. And I'm just in an Uber. It's already cost me $40. I'm like, great start to the trip. They call me back. They go, hey, go to the depot. We've got it sorted. It's all good. Rock up to the depot. No idea. No idea about who I am, what I'm doing, or why I'm here. Apart from the fact that they know that I need a van and I haven't got one. So they give me the ultimatum, which was, okay, we're going to fly this guy that I met down there from Melbourne to Sydney, and he's going to drive your van, which is up in Sydney, back down to Melbourne, and you can meet him. So they give me a little car. It was like a Suzuki, no, not a Suzuki, a Holden Barina. Wouldn't go over 120 downhill wind assisted if it tried. And I've loaded my 40 kilos of luggage into this thing and off we go. I'm like, you know what? It's better to be on the road. So that was the first thing for the day. And then the day prior, I'd been speaking to Commando Skydive, which is in a place called Traralgon, which is out of Melbourne by about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And they're like, yeah, just come in. We're open. We run every day. Awesome. Great. So Monday morning, I'm in the van. Oh, sorry, I'm not in the van yet. I'm in the the Barina. And I rock up to Traralgon Commando Skydive. Gates are locked. This is number 2. How good's that? So I'm like, okay, I got no van. I got no way to skydive. What can I do from here? So I was originally going to stay in Traralgon that night. So I decided I was going to drive the extra 3.5, 4 hours to get to where I needed to go for the next day, which would then mean that I get to be where I need to be a day earlier so I can skydive earlier. And so I ended up at a place called Lakes Entrance. Now, Lakes Entrance was this beautiful little spot. Reminded me a lot of actually Hope Island on the Gold Coast here, which is just like marina, waterfront views, beautiful little spot. And the guy is at this stage about an hour and a half, 2 hours or 3 hours still away. He's driving from Sydney still. He's got my van. So I pulled up to Lakes Entrance, had a bit of lunch, did my thing, and kept moving along. Now, this is the thing that I've taken out of this, is that if I had have had the van, I probably wouldn't have seen a lot of the places that I saw. I went to, I went to the next day and pulled up at a place called Lakes Entrance. I know it was Maribula Beach, and had the most magical sunrise and meditation there. That was great. But I didn't get my van till 9 o'clock that night at Maribula. So I got the van, got myself set up. Mind you, like I said, that was 2 things that were like already going wrong. The third was I almost ran out of fuel between New South Wales and Melbourne. There was the mountain range that goes across there. I'm pretty sure it was part of the Great Dividing Range. There was no reception. Thanks, Vodafone. I had been so blasé and so off with the ferries, I didn't even look at the fuel. And I looked down and it's flashing with 1 bar, like, you need to get fuel now, bro, or you're going to run out. I was like, fuck, don't let this be. When I say like there was no one around, like I hadn't seen a car in fuck knows how long. I honestly couldn't tell you how long it'd been since I've seen a car. So I'm like, if I get stuck out here, I've got no reception, I've got no fuel, I've got no van, I can't just sleep. So I would have been screwed. Would have been absolutely fucked. Anyways, luckily I drove a little bit further. I calmed my driving down just a little bit so I'd hopefully conserve some more fuel. And I pulled up at a service station. It was like, oh, there's this service station that's just appeared and it saved my life. Anyways, filled up. Yeah, like I said, got to Maribula that night. Went to a lovely pub there for dinner. Absolutely amazing. Next day, woke up on the golf course at a place called, I can't remember the name of the beach. It starts with a B. Anyways, and from there, I made my way up to Maria, which was the first drop zone I went to. Got to Maria around 10 or 11 o'clock. Got welcomed really well. But apparently they just stopped jumping for the day because the wind had picked up and there was a heap of students and they went around the plane. So all good. Got my gear check done. Sweet. Next day, woke up. I was there at 7 a.m. ready to go with bells on. And got my first jump in. Got 3 jumps in this day, 3 jumps in the next day, and then headed off. Now, Maria is rated as probably the best facility for skydiving in Australia as far as it goes for amenities and the actual facilities itself. Like they have rooms there that are just fucking clean as, mad showers, mad toilets. I don't know for anyone that's like, oh yeah, that sounds like normal stuff, but going to drop zones and staying on the drop zone can be pretty risky at times. They can be pretty how you going with the accommodation. The hangar, the planes, everything about this place was just pristine. The bar, I obviously don't drink often, but and I didn't drink at this occasion either. But I the bar, the kitchen, everything that's there is just amazing. So I had a really good experience there. So good that I bought a shirt to bring home with me. Anyways, and then I was off to the Gong next. So on my way, stopped in at the Gong and met up with a few friends of mine that I met over in Europe last year. We were on the Kentucky in Greece together. So that was great catching up with a few of the boys. Um, and then next I went up to Picton. So I got to Picton and wasn't as warm a welcome as Maria, but I also like know there was a big event on there, so everyone was sort of in their little, I guess, event groups and whatnot. Still got some jumps in. Met a really cool guy who was actually a Navy diver in the UK. So yeah, what's that going to be called? The Royal Navy, I guess. Um, did a jump with him, fucking legend, absolute fucking legend. And then did a jump with another couple of fellas that were actually from Maria, and they were up there doing a tandem with them, mate of theirs. So cool experience. And then I thought, you know what, I'm gonna cut my losses here because I had a big comp on the next day for swooping, which is where they'll come down really, really fast and they'll come across the pond. It was called pond froth. And the idea is that you get as close to the pond, even dipping your toes in the pond for as long as you possibly can, and still don't end up wet, if that makes sense. If anyone's seen swooping, it's fucking cool. But it is also dangerous. I don't know how many injuries and friends that I've even had that have been injured swooping. And generally, when it comes to skydiving, this is where people do get injured. So I was like, look, not going to hang around. I'll keep heading on my way, and I'll go to Elderslie, which is Hunter Valley. Went and stopped at a mate's house on the way. Caught up with a few other friends of ours, or of mine, sorry. Went and stopped in at Umina Beach. Spent a bit of time there with a good friend of mine, Corey. And then the next morning, got up real early and made my way up to Elderslie, which is in the Hunter Valley. Now, once again, got to the Hunter Valley and it was busy as they actually had the state championships on there for formation flying. So absolutely cracking. There was people there. They were running loads all day, but the winds here were pretty gnarly as well. But I still jumped. Got I think 3 or 4 jumps in the first day, 3 or 4 jumps in the second day, and then no 3 jumps, 3 jumps in the first day, or 4 jumps the first day, and maybe I did 1 or 2 in the morning. Anyways, I can't remember. I either spent 2 days jumping there, maybe 3 days jumping there. I can't remember. But then I was on my way, and once again, this come to the end of the weekend of the first week of being on the road trip. And I was like, well, I wanted to stop at Coffs. I wanted to stop at Port Macquarie, but the winds were just absolutely atrocious. So I thought I'd bypass that and I'd pull my trip forward a couple of days and get up to Byron Bay. So at this point in time, I think I was at about 90 something jumps, maybe 96, 97. And at the 100th jump is when we do something called the no undie hundy. And that's literally, like it says, is jumping out of the plane naked, completely starkers. And I wanted to do this as part of the tradition at my home drop zone. So I was really hanging out for the weather to be good here. I ended up pulling up at Yamba for a night as well, which was really nice. Took myself for a nice little solo date down at a cafe in Yamba. Woke up to, once again, a beautiful sunrise and got on the road up to Byron Bay. Got a couple of jumps in and then kept moving my way up and went and picked my son up, which was cool. Being able to have him in the van with me and spend a night with him was just amazing. Actually being able to bond with him like that. So this is like the Monday I picked him up. Tuesday we were down at Byron. We spent the whole day down there jumping and he loved it. He was just running amok. He was literally like running around with the the walkie-talkie like he was ground control, and everyone down there treated him like he was one of theirs. Like he literally just, he felt comfortable. I felt comfortable with him running around doing his thing the entire time. And that, especially in today's day and age, is such an amazing thing to have a group of people that you can trust your kid around and trust to be around your kid. It's very few and far between nowadays, I believe. So yeah, that was cool. And then I dropped him back to his mum's after a couple of days of jumping, and I was at jump number 99. So I had one jump left before I got to the 100. And apparently it was meant to be raining. It was meant to be windy. I was like, fuck, I'm not going to get to do this, am I? But I went and dropped him back up to his mum's house, stayed with a friend, and then came back down to Byron to pick my rig up. And they were sending loads, and I was like, fuck, I'm getting on this load. So I did my no undie hundy with a plane full of tandems, so people doing their first jumps. I was in the plane with just my shorts on, my undies over the top of my parachute, and I ripped them off in the plane, threw them back in the corner, and I think I was second out, and I had a fella flying camera for me, which was really cool. I actually might put some of that footage up in this podcast, just so you can see. I'm obviously not going to go too far on with it, but yeah, so I got to do my no undie hundy, which was fucking sick. And it was probably one of the most liberating and freeing and fun jumps I've ever done, to be fair. And that then also meant that now I've got my C license and I can start to play with the camera. So I've got a GoPro to run with. For anyone that's been following, you would have seen a couple of videos I put up, including one of me taking out a fence. I'll put that in here as well. But so then it was on to, I think I was about Thursday at this point, on the second week of the trip. So I spent a fair bit of time locally around where I live here on the Gold Coast, and obviously just jumping as much as I could, spending time with my son, all that sort of stuff. And then Thursday I headed up to the sunny coast, got up to the sunny coast, and caught up with a client of mine, excuse me. Caught up with a client of mine and had some lunch, had some dinner, and that was great. It was actually really cool to be able to bond and meet in the flesh because we've only ever done Zoom calls together. And the next day caught up with another good friend of mine who, me and him, for lack of a better way of putting it, used to do a lot together back in the day when we were running amok. And it's really cool to see that Matty is doing really well now as well. He's clean. He's going to the gym all the time. He's got a job. He's working. He's looking after himself. And seeing that we've both come from the same place. And I mean, he was a little bit older than me and a little bit further into the scene than me and did a little bit more jail than me also. Seeing that he was absolutely crushing it was just like such a good feeling to be able to see someone that, once again, I had such an association with in the past, to be able to now do something amazing with his future. It was really cool to see. And then from there, I made my way up to Rockhampton. So heading up to Rocky, got there on I think it was the Thursday or the Friday afternoon, and camped up at Yeppoon and caught up with my housemate's brother up there. So we did a bit of exploring, did a bit of getting around, stayed in Yeppoon Friday, Saturday. Sunday, I headed further north and up to Airlie Beach. So it was about another 6-hour drive. I tried to break it up so I wasn't driving more than 6 hours at a time. The original goal was 4 hours, but 6 hours is still not too bad. And it's crazy, like the distance from Melbourne to like Queensland is almost the same distance from like Queensland, like the tip of Queensland from Gold Coast to Cairns, which is where I was ending up. But yeah, spent a couple of days out in Airlie. That was sick. They got a cool little drop zone out there. Once again, really welcoming. good lads, good crew. It's like the mountable, like classroom type of thing out in the middle of fucking nowhere. And like the landing area is all rocks and shit, so it's pretty gnarly. So luckily I was landing on my feet. But did some more jumps there. And actually the first night I pulled up there, I decided I was going to go on a trip and took some mushrooms with the purpose of seeing if there was anything within myself that I needed to bring up to face. So just a bit of a disclaimer there. I believe that plant medicine is great if used for the right purpose and not recreationally. Obviously, there's too much of a good thing, and that can be something that will affect you obviously long term. I know that there's been times in my life where I've used mushrooms and things like that as a recreational thing rather than actually having a purpose behind it. So just to give you a bit of a rundown, I actually had a bad trip. It was a really bad trip. I had some things come up about some stuff that was going on in my life that really brought some things to my attention, and they made me see that there were so many times where I've made choices in my life without thinking it through, without asking the right questions, and how detrimental this could be to me moving forward. So, if anything, it was 4 hours of torture, but it was also a very, 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 very important lesson for me. And it taught me a lot about greed, something that I've always struggled with, especially with money. I think that it also comes from a place of lack and scarcity, and that's the mindset around money that I've been taught by my mum. And also, greed was something that I sort of saw with my dad. And then I sort of started to see that playing out in my relationship with money also. So this learning was huge, and I feel like it's something that's actually going to change my life for the better. So I'm very grateful for that experience. I pulled up at a little place out of Airlie Beach called Conway Beach, and took the trip on sunset. And yeah, the sun was going down. I was seeing all sorts of crazy shit. I was trying to journal and I couldn't because I just literally couldn't see the page. And things got really heavy, and it started to bring up that feeling of greed and how greed could really just tear people apart, and how a couple of decisions I'd made recently could really go one way or the other and be the difference between me having the life that I want to live or losing everything that I've worked so hard for. So, like I said, all in all, it was an amazing experience. I'm really grateful for that experience, and once again, don't recommend and don't condone it. Taking mushrooms, obviously, for the wrong reasons, but I definitely think that there's a lot of benefits that can come from the use of psilocybin. But that's a topic for another podcast, I believe. So yeah, then that was on the Sunday. The Monday, Tuesday, I was jumping. Wednesday, I got some jumps in, and then headed further north to Innisfail. So I got to Innisfail, I think, on the Thursday. Went and checked out another drop zone there, Innisfail, which is like Cairns drop zone. I did a jump there on Thursday. I got there Wednesday, sorry. I did a jump there on Thursday morning, just one jump, because they were running mostly tandems. They didn't have anyone else there at a fun jump, and they've got really small planes that you need to obviously fill to be able to send loads. Um, the Friday we got rained out, and Saturday I had a really good day jumping. So I was staying at a place called Mission Beach. It was only actually during this point in the trip, this 3 days, where I had accommodation, apart from when I stayed in Townsville for one night when I left Airlie Beach and then drove to Innisfail the next day. I booked myself an apartment, and there was a couple of times I stayed with friends, but across the entire trip I was sleeping in a van the entire time. But the only time I actually slept in the van and paid for a van accommodation was in Mission Beach, and it was the most beautiful little place. It was a place called Barley High in Mission Beach. Um, Really good vibe, right on the beach, and like points to them. They even had a yin yoga class, and I'm a sucker for some yin yoga, so that was great to be able to go and do that. Um, but there was actually a really cool experience that came out of this as well. And there's a place called Survivor Fitness. It's a fitness gym in Mission Beach, and I went in there and got to talking with the guy that was the owner, and he brought to my attention that he was an amputee. So Glenn Dixon was attacked by a 3.5 meter bull shark on a spearfishing adventure and lost his leg. He died 6 times on the way back to shore, and was lucky to be alive. And I was actually lucky enough to have him sit down with me because I took my podcast mics with me. I had this feeling that I was going to meet someone on the trip that I could do a podcast with. And he was a perfect example. So he took time out of his day to sit down and actually do a podcast with me to talk about his story and the amazing things that he's doing now and how he's turned his life around, and how that experience actually helped him to combat severe depression and mental health issues that he was having. So that's an amazing episode that'll be out in the next few weeks. I really look forward to bringing that one to you guys. But yeah, Mission Beach, cool little spot. I'd go back there in a heartbeat. I actually went on the Friday night to a place called the Bingle Bay Cafe, and it reminded me of like Byron Bay vibes, just real chill, live music, great food, great music. Like I said, great atmosphere. There were kids up dancing. Everyone there was just happy to be there. It was such a cool little spun out spot. But yeah, then come Saturday, I spent the day jumping. Once again, met some fucking incredible people. One of which actually offered me to come back to her where she was staying to, she was doing house sitting. She was a German girl. And she offered for me to have a shower there because obviously being in the van for 3 weeks, like I was few and far between when I was having showers. It had to be like a surf shower here or, jump in at a mate's shower there or, jump in with one of the boys from skydiving and hopefully get one at his place. Like, this is a problem with planning it. So that's why the 3 days at Mission Beach are amazing because I had shower, I had hot water, I had a kitchen to use for those 3 days, which was great. But anyways, so this girl, yeah, offered for me to come back and have a shower at her place. It was great. We went out for some dinner and had some really good chats. And then I had a night out with a good friend of mine. And the next morning, woke up and went for a nice big hike to a place called Wyndon Falls, which was just like this amazing little hole of water at the end of a waterfall, which is like an infinity pool, like a natural infinity pool. And we sat in there for ages and just had the most deepest chats. It was such a cool experience. And on the way back from there, this is on Sunday, I was flying out back to the Gold Coast on Monday, or back to Brisbane, sorry, on Monday. I thought, you know what, I'm going to book myself an apartment for tonight or something like that, an Airbnb, something that I can just get comfortable in, relax in, pack my bags back up, do some washing, all that sort of stuff. And I booked this place in Cairns Central, like North Cairns, sorry. And it was usually 160, 360 for the night. I got it for 180 for one night. And it was like this beautiful, beautiful big room with a massive shower. They let me use their laundry as well at the bottom of their house. And they had this garden set up which had like blue tongue lizards and snakes and turtles and spiders and lizards and I've already said lizards and fish and all sorts of animals. And it was just so cool to be there in this environment to finish off my trip. It was just such a wholesome experience. So I had a nice quiet Sunday night. Monday morning, woke up, got all my stuff together, went to the gym, dropped the van back, washed the van, and yeah, it was back to reality on Monday. But the thing is, this whole trip, the most amazing thing about it was the people that I've connected with. I think that some of these people are people I'll probably stay in contact with for the rest of my life. I know that actually they will be. The skydiving community, just being able to get out there and immerse myself in the skydiving community and really get amongst it was such an amazing experience as well. Met some really, really cool people through that. Saw some incredible things like a place called Burger Mui. I would never have seen that if I wasn't on the road, and like even Maribula Beach, like wouldn't have ever seen that. Some of these places I was pulling up were just so random. It was just so cool to have the freedom to pull up and stop here. But the big lesson is that if I do something like this again, I need to change phone carrier. Vodafone, you fucking suck. Um, literally, like there were plenty of times where I had to drive and I'd like have to pull over to try and find reception to make phone calls and things like that. And I was out of reception a lot of the time and whatnot. But that was all part of the experience. It wasn't actually such a bad thing. There was parts of me that was stressing about that. There was also a big part of me that really enjoyed the experience of not having to look at my phone every 3 seconds because it wasn't blowing up. Um, but as far as it goes for caring to my current clients, I definitely could have stepped up the game a little bit and made sure that I was in constant reception and also available for the calls that we needed to do. So that's something I definitely would like to work on for next time. But all in all, the trip itself just taught me a lot about myself. And this entire time, apart from a few occasions when I caught up with friends and I had my son, I was alone at night. I was alone by myself on the drives. I was alone by myself a lot of the time. And there was a point in the third week, I think it was a Friday, where I was really having this battle in my head, like, fuck, you're not good enough. Yeah, nah, you need a girlfriend. Nah, yeah, you need to be doing X, Y, and Z. And I just let it all go. I let it all go. And I decided I was going to enjoy the rest of the trip. And from here on out, I was going to be so fine being by myself. And this is something that I struggled with for such a long time, especially after being in jail. And I always needed to have company. I always needed to have people around me. And I mean, at home, even though I might not have a girl with me or friends with me, I've got housemates. I've got my son here. I'd never actually experienced being properly alone And this was probably the biggest lesson I got out of it was that, hey, like you can achieve so much on your own and you are so capable of absolutely anything you put your mind to. Um, and even though I preach this stuff, it's still something that I'm learning as well, right? Like I'm very secure in who I am. I'm very confident. Um, yeah, my self image, like I really rate that highly. Like I think very well of myself, but there's always going to be those little parts of you that still hold on from, previous experiences. And I feel like this trip for me was being able to let go of that and now being able to really transition on a physical, emotional, or spiritual level from the person I used to be into the person that I am. The man that I'm becoming, the leader, the person that will have an impact on the world and that will inspire so many people that I already have. I know that, and I will inspire so many more. So it was a really, really, really wholesome, really amazing trip, all in all. And yeah, I just wanted to share the experience of it with you guys. And for anyone out there that's thinking about doing a trip like this, the best advice I can give you is fucking do it. At the end of the day, yeah, I get it. Like, your job might hold you back, finances might hold you back, whatever it might be. But if you're thinking about doing it and you really want to do something like this, make it happen because, you only live your life once. And it's experiences like this that you'll remember for the rest of your life. Not sitting there doing your 9 to 5. Like, fuck it, you'll get another job. Like, things might be shit for a little while, but the memories that you can create through experiences like this are the things you'll remember for the rest of your life. So, yeah, have a look at where you're at, and if you want to make change, remember you always can. Um, and know that there's always support there for you as well. But yeah, if you wanted to take a trip like this, if you wanted to go on an adventure, go on a holiday, and you're scared of doing it, might maybe because of the same reason that I never traveled alone previously, which was like, what if I'm alone? Well, it led to that fear of being alone. Just step out of the comfort zone. It's the best thing you'll ever fucking do because these trips, experiences like this, apart from the amazing people that you meet, like that's a given because one of our basic human needs is connection. So we have a high need for that. We'll find connection in some way, shape, or form, whatever it looks like. But the biggest thing I got out of this was that it doesn't matter where you go, what you do, you'll always be able to be okay. Like you'll be okay alone in every experience, and no matter what happens in your life, even though you can't control the circumstances, things will always get better if you allow them to. So, legends, I hope that you've enjoyed this recap of my last 3 weeks on the road, and I'll look forward to seeing you again on the next episode.